Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and this is our weekly office hours Ask Me Anything. Usually I'm here every Tuesday to take your questions. I stay here for an hour, so you can ask your questions via the live chat, or you can also ask them here, deltacx.link/ask. And I got 5 questions ahead of time. So we are going to start with the questions that came in first. First come, first served. Let's get the first one up on the screen. And of course, if you have a question, I will add it to the end of the list. Also, we should give a quick thank you shout out to the people who are supporting the YouTube channel financially, which is completely optional, but always appreciated. So thanks to our low ego action heroes who are chipping in between $3 and $10 a month for the support. Okay, so let's take a look at our first question. And I should probably warn everybody I'm not feeling well today. I'm in a little bit of slow motion, and I feel like I'm in a bit of a brain fog. So I apologize if my answers aren't as sharp as you would prefer. The first question says, "Hi Debbie, what is the difference between UX audit and heuristic evaluation? How do they complement each other, and what is the difference?" I think heuristic evaluation has a pretty clear definition. We all know what it is. So a heuristic evaluation, and you can always Google UX heuristics to learn more. You'll probably end up on the Nielsen Norman Group website, NNG. The heuristic evaluation, there are 10 UX heuristics, and the idea is that in a heuristic evaluation, you have one or more people take a look at an existing system, a website, an app, or something else, and they will then kind of judge this based on these heuristics, which are kind of like standards or guidelines, and then you can end up with some sort of report. I think sometimes there's scoring involved. Again, I've seen people do it different ways. And then you can end up saying, hey, you know, these heuristics on this website or app or system don't look good, and there's something that we should improve. So it's kind of a way for you to look at room for improvement. And sorry, still trying to log into my other system here. A UX audit, I've seen done very differently. So heuristics are definitely heuristics. The styles are a little bit different, but UX audit can be anything. So when I do a UX audit, I definitely have heuristics in mind. But in addition to heuristics, I'm also looking at things like information architecture. Does the navigation seem to make sense for who we see as the target audience? What about the content? Does the content seem compelling? Will it make sense to who we believe are the target audiences? I'm looking at general usability factors. I'm looking at accessibility. Do I see bad color contrast? Do I see poor colors for the people who might have color blindness? So I would say in an audit, we could be looking at any number of things, and it's not necessarily standardized. Those are going to be subject to different people's styles. Some people are going to do an audit alone. Some people do them with multiple people. I've done audits alone. I've done them teamed up with other people to get their perspectives as well. And so I wouldn't say there's one right way to do an audit. Ultimately, the audit should be something that in a neutral, unbiased way gives us a document that says where this site or app or system is breaking heuristics and probably a poor user experience for one or more reasons, considering our target audience. So I'm going to go with that as my answer. Hopefully that is okay. And now let's take a look at the next question, which I will paste up on the screen. There we go. Let's make it a little bigger. There we go. Okay. The question says, what are your general thoughts around NNG, design thinking approach and program, and what do you think about the fact that they promote it? So I've been extremely disappointed that NNG is promoting design thinking. Oh, we got Larry here. Hey, Larry. Would you also describe an audit as being more task-oriented and evaluative being more superficial? Again, Larry, I tend to think these are up to individual styles. You know, certainly when I'm auditing stuff, I'm looking for how I think things relate to users' tasks, but I think not everyone does that, and they might still call what they're doing an audit. So I think it's just one of those things where we all have different styles. I think an audit should consider things from the perspective of the task, but I can't guarantee that someone will do that. Thank you. Good to see you here. Back to the question. As I was saying, I'm very disappointed that NNG is throwing design thinking around, especially since if you go to my channel or you search on YouTube, if you search for Delta CX Don Norman, you'll get a clip from a video Don Norman did a year or so ago where he said he didn't like design thinking and that he thought modern design thinking was basically garbage. So I think that NNG are doing something around design thinking in spite of Don Norman, which is unfortunate. We should listen to the guy most of the time. And I think that, but I also think if you remember that they're capitalists who make money off of training and things, it makes sense for them to throw around words like design thinking or lean UX, because these are words that everyone is saying. And if they want to sell training, they probably have to say those words. But I have noticed in most but not all cases, when NNG refers to design thinking, they'll talk about the 5 steps of design thinking or however you want to look at them, but then they will typically talk about doing proper research, which is not guaranteed in design thinking. Design thinking does not guarantee that you have started with or done any decent research. As for this particular article that the person sent me, I looked at it earlier today. I'll look at it again right now. But I remember thinking it was just very general, like, hey, the funny thing is they actually have 6 phases of design thinking, and you always hear 5. They've got a bunch of short videos online, and they talk about how sympathy and empathy aren't the same, which I've talked about here. So I think that basically this page looks like it's just a bunch of their videos. If you're following them on YouTube, you're seeing these videos. And so ultimately, I would imagine that they are covering design thinking to make money. Larry says at NNG, Jacob is responsible for the training and Don isn't. That could also explain that. But again, I know that design thinking is hot, and I think if you want to make money, you throw around the words design thinking. That's a nice hot decaf, by the way. Please join me in having one. So I'm surprised that they have gone in that direction, because Don is so clearly against what he calls modern design thinking. Hey, even IDEO is telling you you're doing it wrong, and it's theater. So, I understand that they have to say it, but I'm sorry about that. I think it gives it more credibility than it deserves, because it deserves none. All right, let's look at our next question. This one says, hi, Debbie. How do you prefer to work with product managers? What are the swim lane boundaries? Could or should a UXer act as a PM on a product after they've performed discovery and informed product strategy? What is the role of UX in implementation? Okay, so I think there's 6 questions in there. So we're going to take a little bit of time with that one. Hello, FN. We're going to take a little bit of time with this one because there's kind of 6 questions, I think, in here. So let's start with, hi, Debbie, how do you prefer to work with product managers? And I think we can also answer the next one as well. So kind of where are the swim lane boundaries? We've got a question coming in from LinkedIn about design thinking. I will add that to the end of the list. We have a list of questions as we do every week. So you are 3 more questions after this one. So please hold. Okay. Product managers and swim lanes and boundaries. So in my opinion, and again, some people disagree, though those people tend to be product managers. I believe that some of the main roles for a product manager would be around product road mapping. But remember that product road mapping is not a mandate to UX on what to do. UX is going to do their own road mapping. So I would say that product is road mapping the product and UX is road mapping the UX work. I would say that product to me is usually supposed to be the bridge between the business goals and the business initiatives and the business metrics and the KPIs and things like that. And what UX is bringing to the table, which is usually that super focus on user needs, user tasks, user perspectives, things like that. And the product manager, in my opinion, is supposed to be that bridge between the two, because obviously if you go too far with the business goals and stuff, you forget about the users and you're not customer centric, or you might be, as I've started saying, customer peripheric, because they're in your peripheral view. Or if you go too far with UX is going to be like, yay, users don't care about the business. Sometimes we get like that a little bit. So I think product is supposed to build that bridge there and find what sometimes the, that Venn diagram, that overlap between the two. I believe very strongly that product managers should not do any UX work. I don't believe that product managers should do any design. I don't believe that product managers should do any research. They shouldn't be asking customers questions. Now, I know that's controversial. People will say, no, product managers have to ask customers questions, because how else are they going to generate firsthand knowledge of users? You can generate firsthand knowledge of users by attending research sessions. That just, if you want firsthand knowledge, come attend the research sessions. The questions don't have to come out of your mouth for you to get firsthand knowledge. You just have to be there, but the questions don't have to come out of your mouth. And in fact, if you want more firsthand knowledge, it's better if the questions don't come out of your mouth, because if you're doing the interviewing, you have so much to think about and juggle in your head with the interview itself that you're not going to be taking notes, that you might not notice everything at first. You might have to watch back the videos. So the better vantage point might even be, for some people, that observer place. And of course, we should be collaborating with product on planning the research, not because they're great at planning research, but because they have questions that we need answers. We need to find the answers to. So they've got questions, they've got assumptions, they've got guesses, they've got hypotheses. They've got old research that they're wondering if it's still good. So there's perfectly some good opportunities, I should say, maybe not perfect, but there's some good opportunities for us to collaborate with product where product does not have to do our work. So I would generally say, in general, product, there's a lot of things product can do, and there's a lot of things they tend to do for engineering teams that have very little to do with UX, like user stories and putting things in the engineering backlog. I don't need those. That's for somebody else. So I think that product management, that there are some definite lines, but there's controversy because product managers who write books and do training say, oh yeah, product's got to do interviews and design stuff. And of course, then UX people are like, oh, please no, these are the jobs we're quitting. So I understand that there's two different sides to this story, but I don't want non-UX people in UX work. As I say in episode 115, which you can check out. You can check out episode 115 for more information, but I always say if someone would not qualify to get a UX job at our company, they shouldn't do UX work. It takes years to be good at research. It takes years to be good at design. We can't just say, well, I'll just ask people questions. Sometimes you're asking the wrong people the wrong questions in the wrong ways. Now you have garbage research. Larry says, I was a certified PM not that long ago, and I agree with Debbie's description of a PM's roles and responsibilities, that of being the arbiter of the business perspective and owner of the product. Thank you, Mr. Larry. Let's go into the other questions asked in this one. Could or should a UXer act as a PM on a product? So I'm just going to end your question there. Only if there isn't a product manager. If there isn't a product manager or product owner who's acting as product manager, then you can do it. But I wouldn't tell you to do it if someone else is doing it, because we don't want to step on their toes. We don't like when they step on ours. Or if you don't have time. Sometimes if you really don't have time to add product management or project management to your world, remember, that's a whole other full-time job. So you can certainly say to your company, hey, product management, project management, full-time job, I'm already spread too thin on this stuff. I'm sorry, I can't pick that up. If you magically have spare time and nobody else is doing it, I guess you can pick that up. But, I do recommend at least getting some training in it. Otherwise, we're doing what they're doing, and we don't like that. Hi, Charlene. What's the role of UX in implementation? So if you mean engineering building it and it actually coming to life and being deployed, I think that UX should be collaborating with engineering. I think we have to collaborate before the designs are finalized. They have to stay on top of what we're designing to make sure it's feasible and something they can build. And then once it's gone to them, we should be collaborating with them so that if they have any questions or ambiguities, they come to us instead of making up a solution. And we should also have kind of a UX review column on that Kanban or Jira or other boards so that when we've got developer builds, UX is taking a look at them and just kind of doing a QA pass for user experience quality. Let's make sure we're not releasing stuff that isn't accessible. Let's make sure we're not releasing stuff that isn't 5 stars out of 5 quality. So those are some of my answers to your questions. I hope that helps. If you're here and you have a follow-up question, please send it in. Let's go to our next question. Oh, and it looks like we might have an anonymous question coming in. Let me check that as well to make sure I add it to the list. Okay, so I got the anonymous question and we'll put it on the end of the list. And we'll get to you in a few questions. And again, I apologize to people tuning in today. I'm not feeling fantastically well. I'm a little bit in slow motion, so I apologize if I'm a little bit in slow motion. Okay, the question was, what is a fake door test and why could it be a wrong or right approach? So the fake door test is definitely not one of my favorites. The fake door test is the idea that you don't build a feature. You have an idea, but you don't build it. And you create a button that would take people to that feature. But of course, there is no feature. So that's why it's a fake door. The idea is that people would hit it, and then usually you pop up something that's like, oh noes, we didn't build this. Ooh, you caught us. And sometimes you just say, ooh, you know, we're working on it, come back later, or put in your email address and we'll let you know when this feature is ready, which of course you then have to do. Don't just put them on the general mailing list, only tell them about that feature. And so the idea, the concept behind the fake door test is that if enough people click on this, well, then it must be something people want, and therefore we probably should build it. Larry says maybe you should have real coffee. Larry, you should know by now that I'm allergic to caffeine. Come on. And Ahmad's got a question from LinkedIn, and I'm going to add you to the list. We've got other questions before you, but yours will be on the list. Okay, so in general, Pallavi, let's see, we'll add your question too. So in general, I am not a fan of the fake door. I think that, first of all, it could be quite flawed. We don't know why people clicked on that button. Curiosity? Accident? Real need? So to say that just because people clicked on a button means they want the feature could be flawed. Another problem is we don't know what their idea of the feature is. We don't know if they clicked on it, if they were imagining thing X, we build thing Y, they end up not wanting thing Y, and then everybody's looking at each other going, well, what happened here? We ran the fake door and everybody clicked on it. We had zillions of clicks and then we build it and nobody wants it. What happened here? So I think we have to be careful that a fake door is just a measurement of how many people clicked on a thing. We don't necessarily know how many people would genuinely want that thing or how many people were curious or clicked it by accident. And we also don't know, we cannot be sure that if we did build that thing, that it would look or work anything like what people want. So you can start with a fake door if you don't mind pissing people off by pretending you built something that you didn't, but then you're still going to need qualitative research, preferably observational, to make sure that whatever that feature is going to be, we're building the right thing in the right way to match people's mental models, expectations, tasks, etc. So the fake door should not be the only thing we're doing. All right, thanks for the questions. Let's move on to a next question. We'll just keep going through them as, you know, until my brain explodes or we run out of time. My company keeps talking about standardizing our process for clients. We're an agency, but our clients vary greatly by problems that need to be solved, stages, industries, budgets, etc. The only part I'm comfortable standardizing is talking to people, stakeholders, customers, users, upfront. How do you feel about standardized one-size-fits-all processes? Super question. Let's see what Larry's saying about the previous question. Users also click on fake doors if the rest of the UI is confusing and they can't find what they're really looking for. Yeah, and let's also remember sometimes because fake door can be super manipulated. Sometimes people who do a fake door test make the button the most colorful and the most interesting, or the slightly bigger button, or it's an animated button. And of course, now everybody's like, ooh, shiny object, what's this? So you can certainly flaw and manipulate your own test by bringing attention to it when maybe there wouldn't have been much attention. All right, so for this anonymous question, here's the way that I see that. Let's take a look for a moment at our user-centered design process. Short version, I gotta fix this up. It's a little small, but basically, research, content strategy, information architecture, interaction design, testing, visual design, and of course, any documentation you finish doing at the end. And so could you have a standard process? Sure, you could say we do user-centered design, or we do double diamond, which is a variation of user-centered design, or we do whatever it is. That doesn't mean you have to do all of this every time for every project. Hypothetically, you could say, this is our process, and then we're going to match the pieces of this to your particular project's needs and timing, just like we would always want to do research, but what method and how many people we meet and what we're going to ask them changes every time. So I think just because you have a standardized UX process doesn't mean every project has to go the same. You might say, oh, after research, we like to make empathy maps. Now, I hate empathy maps, but the bottom line is just because you could say, hey, here's something we could make at the end of research. At the end of research, we could make a Miro board, an empathy map, a task analysis, an optimized task flow, a jobs to be done, a customer journey map. Doesn't mean you have to make all of those. And I think that you have to write your process for your agency that this is flexible. Yes, it generally has to go in order. Research comes first, when research comes again when we do testing. Larry says a standardized process or a quiver of tools with a standardized flow. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, but you've said it much better. So the idea is that user-centered design is a process, but we have to be, who remembers this graphic, strategic about it. We have to say, you know what, for this project, these are the pieces that I'm going to do. This is how long they're going to take. These are the methods I'm going to use. And so it starts out as a process with a number of different phases and tasks and artifacts and deliverables, but then you break it out of being one size fits all by saying, it's got flexibility, and people who are strategic about UX are going to decide how much of this we do, how long it takes, and in what ways. That's how I would do it, because ultimately there shouldn't be a standardized one-fits-all process. You can't say every project we do is going to get an empathy map. Well, it doesn't make sense. You can't say every project we're going to do is going to get personas. What if they already have personas and they're happy with them? So I think, as Larry says, I don't think you're looking for a one-size-fits-all process. I think you're looking for a process where you can be a critical thinker and choose the right pieces of it. That's how I see it. I hope that helps. Next. Okay, so this was a question we got on LinkedIn just some minutes ago. So let's talk about it. And it says, what is the similarity and differences between design thinking and UX design? So design thinking and UX design have very little in common because ultimately UX design comes from our buddy user-centered design, where by the time we're getting to the UX design, which is kind of the information architecture and interaction design, we've already done a lot of other stuff. We've hopefully done a lot of research, especially observational research. When we look at design thinking, which I don't have a graphic for, but many of you are familiar with the 5 stages of design thinking, it is not guaranteed that you're going to do good research first. Many companies and teams and people go into into design thinking exercises just guessing about customers or their needs or their tasks or what they do or why they do it. So design thinking doesn't guarantee that. And also design thinking, because design thinking is in general a speed over quality approach. It's more important that design thinking is done fast in hours or days than for design thinking to be a month-long process or 2-month-long process. It's really designed to be something done when you want to skimp and be super short on things, which of course I don't recommend. To me, there's never a good reason to do that. And if your company is skimping on good UX or good design or good research, it's not going to have good outcomes. That just means we're guessing. So I would say go to YouTube and put in Delta CX Design Thinking. You'll probably get like 10 videos of different lengths. I recommend watching those if you'd like to know more about why I hate design thinking and why I'm against it. Yeah, Ahmad says, this is a problem I face in my company presently. I'm not satisfied with just a UI without good research. Larry says, Debbie, you should take pride in the quality of questions your show invites. I do. I really do. I thank you. People do ask absolutely beautiful, wonderful questions. We so rarely get a bad question. You're right. I love that. Thank you, Larry. That's true. And I'm happy that I'm someone that people can ask it to, because I know for many people, they either don't have a job yet, or their job has a manager who doesn't come from UX and they don't know who to ask. So I want to be that person, which reminds me to press this button and tell everybody, please subscribe here on YouTube, and please tell 3 people who you know love CX and UX about this show and about this channel. We would love to have more subscribers here. Hello, Steph. So I would say look up the videos we have on design thinking, especially the most recent one I did, episode 142, which was design thinking designed to not work? Which I would say it was designed to not work. So, that's bad. All right, let's take a look at the next question. I think this just came in anonymously. I'm almost caught up. Someone like me on job hunting? What does that mean? All right, this question says, I have a senior coworker who presents the ideas that I present in our design meetings in other meetings with higher managers without any credits to me. I tried to explain the situation to one of these higher managers, but I was told that these are not my ideas. I don't know what to do. Okay, so I think the first question would be, do you have a manager that you can talk to? And what does that manager say? And, depending upon your personality, maybe you stop giving ideas for a couple of weeks and watch the other person have nothing to present in meetings. It's weird. It might be a little bit petty, but I would tell them, if you're not going to give me credit for my ideas, I'm going to stop telling you my ideas. I'm not going to show you my work. If you're going to steal my ideas and not give me credit, I'm not going to show you my ideas anymore. Anybody else have any other ideas? I never know what to do with the person who steals credit, especially since I live in a world where Jared Spool is constantly stealing my stuff. What do you do? Command Design Academy says, I like that. Be mute for a few weeks and see how that goes. Yeah, again, it's not the kindest choice, but neither is stealing from you. So, I don't know, show them this video. Hey, other designer, you're supposed to be better than this. You're supposed to be way better than this. If you're the senior coworker, you're supposed to be nurturing this person, supporting this person, raising them up. What are you doing? Which part of low ego action hero did you not get? Because it sounds like you're not an action hero, and it sounds like you've got a high ego, and you're taking this other person's ideas and you're presenting them as your own. That's unethical. That's bad and that's wrong. There's no excuse for that. There are no circumstances under which that's okay, because all you have to do is say, hey, let me show you some of these ideas, and some of them I came up with, and some of them my super talented junior coworker came up with them. Why can't you give this person credit and raise them up? Now, hashtag empathy. Who's with me on hashtag empathy? Hey, senior coworker, imagine yourself in this situation. Imagine that you are the junior coworker and you have a senior who's doing this to you. How would you feel? Is this right? Is this good? I think you need to have a little talk with yourself about ethics and what you wish would happen to you, because if you believe in karma, something ugly is coming your way. Yeah, let's see. Larry says, I would never do it, but it might be fun to offer bad ideas. Yeah, I'm not sure I would offer bad ideas. Ahmad is plugging himself, which of course I cannot plug Ahmad. I don't know his work. So, check out Ahmad's work at your own risk. Steph says, take notes of when this happens, kind of a journal of this. Have witnesses, if possible, to report this with proof. That's another good idea as well. Only show this person ideas in front of someone else, like your manager. Like, make sure your manager starts to come to these design meetings and your manager knows which things were your ideas. That's a good one, Steph. I'm sorry I didn't think of that one myself. Yeah, show the other people your designs and your design ideas with a manager present, because if it's a coworker, then it's, ooh, who said what? Have your manager there and see if they still steal your ideas later. Good one. So let's see. Marisol says, this reminds me of the Don Draper quote, I give you money and you give me ideas. Yeah, but I'm not sure you want your coworker stealing your ideas. The coworker's not giving you money. Alrighty, let's see what's next. Okay, this might have been Ahmad's question. Let's take a look. Okay, it says, my question is, what could be the best decision? Let's see, if you're going to just keep promoting yourself, I'm going to take you off the screen. What could be the best decision for a new employed UI UX designer who the project stakeholders rush to come up with UI design instead of UI UX? Okay, so first of all, on this show, we don't totally believe in UI UX. UI UX is usually UI pretending to be UX. So I'm not too sure. I would say typically a UI UX job is a lot of rushing to UX to UI design. I think that's pretty common. I think, yeah, if your job is UI UX, that means it's UI first. So, but if the real problem here is that stakeholders are coming up with their own UI designs when that's your job, you got to talk to your manager. Do you have a manager? You have to tell your manager, I was hired to do these UI designs, and the stakeholder is doing their own UI designs. Now, we also had episode 129 over on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, deltacx.com/links. We also had a show that was episode 129, which is when you're interviewing at jobs, questions you can ask that will help you know what kind of environment you're going to be working in. Because very often, this is the environment and they're proud of it. Oh, thank you for subscribing. Very often, this is the environment and they're proud of it. They think this is great. They think stakeholders designing the UI or the UX is great. You could have learned that in your interview if you had asked some of the right questions. Now, that doesn't make this your fault, and this isn't your fault in any way. But just be careful when you are interviewing that it will be important for you to ask some questions to make sure you understand how work here is done. Because if stakeholders like to design products and draw screens and things like that, and you can't overrule them, that's the environment you now work in, and you have to decide whether or not you want to stay. There you go. Command says, some companies are not switching things up and calling it UX UI. What do you say about that? Same thing. I find that in general, UX UI, UI UX, and product design all seem to be, we really love visual design, and we hope that's good enough. So that's what I'm finding. Let's add that to the questions list, and then we'll add the new question from Carl. Except we've got a question before Carl. So Carl, give us one moment, and then we will get you on the screen. Okay. Oh, so much copy and paste. Here we go. Paste and post. And am I missing any anonymous ones? Not yet. Okay. This question says, what if you are a junior researcher at the organization and the product manager has been around a long time and there's no UX team, you're the only researcher? Well, that could either go very well, very badly, or anywhere in between. So I'm not too sure what that question is, because I don't know what's happening right now. Is this, are there problems already happening? What's going on there? I mean, just because, if you're the only UX researcher at a company and you're a junior and you have no senior to support you, that's not a great situation to be in, but you would have known that from your job interviews. You would have known from your job interviews that you were coming in as a junior UX researcher with no other researcher there who was going to help or support you. So this technically shouldn't be a surprise. Now, again, that doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean it's the right way to go. It just means this shouldn't be a surprise because we have to ask these questions during interviews like, who else is on the team? I'm a junior. Will I have leadership support? So it really depends. If the product manager is saying, I've been around a long time, I know what people need, you don't have to do any research, then, why did they hire you? You have to go to your manager and say, why am I here? This product manager is acting like they know everything and they don't seem to want my research. So what am I doing here? And you might just have to keep applying for other jobs, or you might just have to stay there and try to create some sort of path for yourself. But again, I can't tell from what you've written here what the problem is. I'm just guessing because I don't know. So my guess would be the PM is telling everybody what to do, and you don't have any support because you're the only researcher. And to me, it just sounds like a bad work environment that doesn't really understand or support UX. You might not be able to change it. You can try, but if you can't change it, it's not you. You didn't break it. All right. Let's see what Carl is talking about today. What would you do if the engineering team for a web front end is incompetent? I mean, seriously, no HTML, CSS, just frameworks, and all designs and prototypes, even though tested, are lobotomized, which I assume you mean they're messed up in some way. I think, and you're not the first person to say this to me recently, to tell a story like this of engineering teams that seem to be to have some competency challenges, let's say it nicely like that. Again, this is a time to talk to, have your manager talk to an engineering lead or engineering manager. I think that would be important because you can't just go over to the engineering team and be like, y'all suck. And you could go over to the engineering lead and say, why does your team suck? I think a question here would be, and Carl, if you're here, you can respond to it. Does the engineering lead know? Does the engineering manager know? Because I wonder if these people were hired based on lies they told, or if these people were hired knowing that they can't do front-end development. So the question is, if these people aren't front-end developers, maybe they're back-end developers or something else, who is doing the front end? We still have to figure that out. So I think if these people are incompetent or they're not the right type of developer that we need, I think someone has to talk to an engineering manager and bring that to light. I think it's important to document risk. Hi, the engineering team doesn't seem to know how to write HTML or CSS in a proper way. That's going to be good for our accessibility. That's going to be good for our SEO. That's going to be good for well-performing, fast websites. Here's a list of risks and problems that's going to cause. What are we doing about this? Not what are you doing about this? Try what are we doing about this? I think that's some of the things that I would try. But that's certainly an awkward situation. Good luck. Okay, Nita says, what is your process when you have an app already filled with functionality and you need to reorganize the content and recreate the navigation structure? Okay, so first of all, my question would be, are we sure the functionality is the right thing? Because we can make a better navigation and we can clean up some content. But what about the functionality? Are we sure that the functionality is really that great and we really just have to clean up some navigation and content? Because I wouldn't be surprised if we need to clean up some functionality as well. So be careful that you're not just putting a Band-Aid on the navigation when we really need to fix more or other parts of this system. If it's a terrible system and you're just trying to clean up some navigation, congratulations, you will more efficiently navigate people to a terrible system. So remember to try to look at this more holistically, I would say. If it is true that your functionality is super and you really just do need to look at navigation and content, typically we try to look at the content first, because changes in content will sometimes signal changes in navigation. So I would say if you have a content strategist, content designer, UX writer, something like that, see if they can do the proposed changes to the content first, because see if that's going to change the way the website is laid out at all, especially if this is an informational website. Maybe something that was 1 page is now 2 pages because we have more to say about it. Maybe something that was 2 pages is 1 page. We felt 2 pages was too long and another click. So typically it's best if we can do the content first and then take a look at the information architecture, which would be how we're going to organize the content and the functionality. So ultimately, I'm a big fan of card sorting and tree testing because when it comes to information architecture related to navigation, they are good tools to use. But it's hard to give you a more specific answer without knowing a little bit more. But if this is really just an informational website with some fresh content and a fresh navigation, I would do the content first and see if that affects the approach to the navigation. Also remember, users' tasks. You can have great content and nice navigation, and if we haven't taken into account why the user is even here, you can still end up with something that's not that great. Tasks, tasks, tasks. Tasks for everything. Okay, I'm all caught up on questions. I'm still feeling kind of sick, so I apologize that I'm not at my best. I'm in a bit of slow motion, and we just took a home COVID test and it was negative, but honestly, I don't believe it. I've just been feeling kind of sick since I got the 3rd shot, and I don't know, I'm suspicious. Larry is writing stuff. Let's put it up on the screen. One of my challenges has been non-designers trying to tell me how to design. I've deflected their suggestions by describing how their ideas are no better than the competition. You can't lead by following everyone else. My successes came from creating novel designs that solve user problems, not producing shiny UIs. Yes, very true. Not sure what that's in response to, but then again, I'm not feeling well. But yes, very true. Yeah. Yes, and please remember to subscribe, everybody, here on YouTube. We've got lots of shows planned, especially for next week. Larry's going to be live on the show teaching us designing backwards. But I am taking off most of the rest of the week because I've got stuff going on. So, after today, I'll see everybody Friday for a reaction stream. And then next week, we do have Think Out Loud. Someone sent in a project. So Think Out Loud will be on again for Monday, February 28th. Tuesday the 1st, I am not doing office hours. I am doing a 4-hour workshop at Interaction 22. If you are interested, you can look up the Interaction 22 conference, and it's before March 1st, 2022. And there are still tickets available for my workshop. I'm doing 4 hours on how to transform your company towards being more customer-centric. Wednesday the 2nd, Larry is here for Design Backwards Micro Lesson. Hopefully Thursday the 3rd will be our rescheduled 2022 trends. And Friday, of course, reaction stream. Duyil says, YouTube link, please. Yeah, you can go to YouTube and look up Delta CX. It's youtube.com/c/Delta CX. Or, of course, you can go to deltacx.com/links and you'll get all the information about the stream that you could ever want. Koyel says, thanks for doing this. Hope you feel better soon. Me too. I just haven't been quite right since that third shot, and I don't know what it is. I'll try another home test tomorrow. Larry says, backwards design. So silly. Avidtar, good to see you again, says, hey, long-time listener, first-time questioner. Are you sure? Because we've seen you before. What does the disruption Apple and Google bring to user privacy, restricting tracking due to the UX process and advocating for the customer? Okay, let's put that one up on the screen. And then we have another question from Ahmad, and we'll put that up in a moment. So Ahmad, please hold. I see your question, and we'll answer that one next. Okay. Oh, so Avatar says, what's going on with the whole privacy tracking and what's that going to do to the UX process and advocating for the customer? Personally, I think there's going to be a difference between what we hope it does and what it actually does, because I think we all hope it means more ethical decisions. We hope it means more customer centricity and more care for the user. We hope it means more empathy. But personally, I believe it will end up with more loopholes and crap and sneaky tricks, just doing them some other way. And so I don't hold out a lot of hope yet that these things are going to lead to fantastic customer centricity. I think we're still going to see a lot of this garbage. So unfortunately, I think the privacy restricting is going to be a good thing, and I think we will see operating systems and stuff taking more control over that. But I still think that doesn't solve the larger ethical problems and questions. These are all still band-aids on the larger ethical problems. So I don't think this solves that ethical problem. I think it brings up some conversations about this stuff, but the Facebooks and all the other ones who are at the center of all this are still going to do what they're going to do. I think they're going to do what they're going to do. It's going to take something really serious to stop them, because this is how they make their money. So they'll stop at nothing to make their money. That's how I see it. How do you see it? Okay, let's answer Ahmad's question. Ahmad says, what is advisable for someone who's employed on a monthly based salary and hasn't been paid after a month of employment? Okay, so that certainly sounds bad. If you are on a monthly salary and you've worked your first month, at that point you give them your invoice and you wait to get paid. Many companies offer 30-day terms where by the end of 30 days later, you're supposed to have been paid. And if at that point you're not paid, what are your options? Now, of course, the best question here, or really the best answer and the best question here, is what does your contract say? Nobody should go into any work with anybody without having a contract, and preferably with you having had a lawyer review the contract, because many people don't understand contracts. So the question is, what did you sign and what did you agree to? If you have no contract with your job, then why should they pay you? There's no agreement there in place. You could try to sue them, but I don't know how that will go. You have no signed agreement that says, I do this work, I get paid. We also saw there's an article going around that's very viral right now about how some company tricked people into working for them and they never paid them, and it was a fake company, and it was a really bizarre, complicated article that you can see going around LinkedIn right now. And I certainly hope that's not what's happening to you right now. It was a company called Madbird. So you definitely don't want to work there, because evidently it's a fake company. But I think that usually I'm on a monthly based salary. And someone is saying, In the UK, people can get free employment law advice by calling ACAS. Okay, so depending upon where you live, there may be perhaps a government organization or some other authority that you can call and get legal advice from them. It could be a labor law person or something like that. Thank you to the person who posted that. Sorry, you can see your name showed up as a LinkedIn user. I'm not sure who you are. But thank you for that. And I'm sure other countries have something similar. So you might want to get that legal advice. You might, if you have some money, you might want to talk to a lawyer. But ultimately, if I were your lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, I would say, let me see your contract. Let me see what this company has to do. Because again, it might be that after you work a month, you give them an invoice, and then they have another month to pay you. So you won't know that there's trouble here until 2 months of working there. And for some people, that's okay. And for some people, that's not okay. So ultimately, if you can't wait 2 months to get that first salary, that's not a job you should take, and it's not a contract that you should sign. Oh, hi, Sophie. Sophie says, it's very tricky if the company is in country A, but the employee is in country B. It could be a complicated case because neither country will accept the case in employment law. Watch out when signing up for a remote gig. Right. Also true, and great points. Thank you, Sophie. Good to see you. Some contracts will say that you can't sue us. Some contracts, you are signing away your right to certain types of legal recourse, and you're saying, I agree to arbitration or mediation or one of these other things. So ultimately, it comes down to the contract you signed, and as Sophie pointed out, whether or not you are in the same country as your employer, so that you can see which labor laws from your own country might support you. Larry says, I add an early payment incentive that gives the client a 2 or 3% discount if they pay within 10 days. Lots of companies take advantage of that. Works better than a late payment penalty. True. If you're giving people an invoice, you can say, sure, our contract says you have 30 or 60 days to pay this, but if you pay this in the next 10 days, you can take off X%. And sometimes companies can process invoices fast and take advantage of the discount, and sometimes they can't and they don't take advantage of the discount. I don't do that because I'm worried people will think my prices are negotiable, and I don't want that, but that's my choice. End of cold cup of coffee, decaf. Okay, we've got a few more minutes here together before I sign off, and we'll see you again on Friday for Reaction Stream, plus Monday for Think Out Loud. But that's mostly that. Yeah, I think in general, remember, when you have issues that are legal, you need to get legal help. A work contract is a legal issue. When you are signing a work contract, you should have somebody reviewing it who is aware of laws and labor laws and business laws. So I do recommend, before signing a work contract, having a lawyer look at it. Lawyers aren't cheap, but check out what you're going through now. Also not cheap. Steph says, do you invoice them 3% more? Ooh, no, I don't think he does. Larry's a fine, upstanding individual. Oh, excuse me. I haven't been feeling well for some time, and we'll figure it out eventually. All right, so if there aren't any more questions, we'll wrap it up for today. And thanks to everybody who's joining. And again, we do not have office hours next week because I am speaking at an event, and so I've had to cancel it. Oh, hi, Sophie. To be honest, any freelancer got scammed once by a client. Sad world. Yeah, you know, we've all been there. We've all had somebody scam us in one way or another. Late payment, non-payment. I remember a client tried to scam me in 1998 by asking for a lot more work than we had agreed on. And when I told her we didn't agree on that, it's not in the contract, she said, yes, but the contract doesn't say you're not going to do it. So that didn't go well for either of us, really. And, I just compromised. I said, look, we'll give you a couple of extra things for free, but the contract says we're not doing, it doesn't say we're doing that. It's not included. You wouldn't be able to win in court against us claiming we were supposed to give you a bunch of things that the contract doesn't mention we're giving you. But since 1998, I now have like in 2 or 3 places in my contract that if something isn't specifically listed in my contract as something we're doing for you, it's not included. The power of watermarks. Yeah, not even. I didn't bother with that. So yeah, certainly lots of lessons learned for many of us. I think I've been lucky. Most of my clients have paid. It's been very rare for me to have a client not pay. Some of them have been extremely late. Some of them have been months late, and that's been unfortunate. I think I've only had it's been very rare for me. I do have a very good contract, and I'm usually doing business with people in the same country as where my corporation is located, so they would be easily suable. My contract says I get to sue you in Tucson, Arizona, and not everybody wants to go there to be sued. And I once had someone pay me with PayPal, and then right before Christmas, tell PayPal they had bought an item off me on eBay and I hadn't given it to them, so they wanted their money back, and PayPal just gave them their money without even investigating it. I was like, wait a minute, this wasn't even an object. This was a service rendered. So that was pretty stupid, and I thought that was a very sad and desperate person who needed money for the holiday season, and, whatever happened to her. Stephanie says, junior contract, 2 pages. Senior contract, 32 pages of all the stuff that went wrong and you want to avoid now. Yeah, it's funny, in a lot of ways, the contract that I use today is really close to the contract that was written for me by my then lawyers in 1995. I've updated a bit over the years. For example, it no longer says we will send you your website on floppy disks or a CD-ROM. And of course I updated the whole, if it doesn't say it, we're not doing it. But in general, it's pretty much the same contract. And it must have been a standard contract because I did some business with a New York company some months ago and they sent me their standard contract and it looked a lot like mine. So, one thing I have had to change is my contract with my contractors. That's changed a lot because with contracting laws changing in different American states, I had to add like a page to that. That one got much longer. I had to add a page because of my corporation's in Arizona. And so I had to add this whole page of Arizona law that says, by Arizona law, you are considered a contractor if, more than 5 of the following is true. And there's a whole list of things. Sending a website on a floppy disk would be amazing. Yeah, once upon a time. Probably even then I was burning CD-ROMs, but I probably was sending people zip disks. I mean, we're talking really long time ago. My contract was originally written in 1995, and only updated a little bit over time. Command says, are they all women that have scammed you? I thought we were more trustworthy. Have only women scammed me? Scammed so far. We did have a terrible client that I once had to dump in the middle of a project because he was so abusive, and that was a male. I haven't had too many bad clients. I've been pretty picky over the years. We've had some pretty good clients. I had a couple of clients who got on the phone with me and started saying random racist stuff, and then I was just like, what? The opposite of that, there's a funny story. The opposite of racism. So we did a design in, I don't know, the early 2000s. And it was for this record store in Florida. In fact, they still use some of our stuff. And it was like all rainbows and disco balls and stuff because it was a record store and the owner was gay. And so we wanted a whole rainbow theme and disco theme. And we did this whole design for him with these rainbows and all this stuff. And then I had this other client who was a born-again Christian. And I can't even remember what he sold, but I think it had something to do with fishing. But now I don't remember what it was. Or maybe it was electronics. I don't remember, but he was so nice. And I remember he calls me up, and I was like, well, are there other websites you've seen? What kind of style are you looking for your business? What's your business mood and personality? And he goes, I saw this rainbow one you did, and I really liked it. I love rainbows, are so pretty. Like, maybe I should have a rainbow one too. And I was like, do I tell him? And then I was like, yeah, I think I have to tell him. I was like, well, Mel, rainbows are awesome, but, depending upon what you're shooting for, the rainbow may or may not work for you. In this particular case, this rainbow was used as a symbol of the gay community. And so, you may or may not want rainbows on what you're doing. And then he's like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, maybe we won't use rainbows. And I was like, okay. Like, how do you tell this guy, oops, here's, and he was from like the middle of Iowa or something, like he just didn't know. I had to tell him. Yeah, I had his son on the phone at one point. I was like, I had to tell your dad. And he was like, yeah, I know. Larry says, my business lawyer reminded me the only time a client looks at the contract is when you do a bad job. Do a good job and nobody looks at the contract, so don't screw up. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. Yeah. Somebody's got an anonymous question. We'll take one more anonymous question, then we'll get out of here. Now I'm running late. And my dog is snoring. Is that my dog? Can you hear my dog snoring? All right, so let's take a look at this one question. We'll put it up. Steph says, I once had a lady who did not want to work with me because the other designers don't do a contract and I wasn't flexible. Oh yeah, crazy people, never mind. Do not want. All right, this person says, would like to know how to correctly split project time for a UX researcher. How much it takes time to set the research goal, questions, stakeholders, recruiting, It was an interview question, did not know how many days everything should take, many thanks. Okay, so there is definitely no one right answer to this. You cannot say that it always takes X minutes to do interviews or X hours to do interviews. It really depends on how many people you're meeting. There are times we do a half hour for an interview. There are times we do an hour for an interview. It really depends on the scope of the project. If you go into the YouTube channel and you look up my micro lesson on UX project planning, you could just go to YouTube and write Delta CX planning. It'll come up. But I have a little spreadsheet there where I show how I plan projects and how I calculate how much time different tasks are likely to take. But I had to make a whole spreadsheet out of it. So there's definitely no one right answer to that. If someone asked me that in an interview, how long would it take? I would say I would have to know the size of the project, the number of people, the number of target audiences we're trying to research with, so I can figure out how many interviews or observations we're going to do. I would have to know what some of our research questions are, what we're trying to learn in order to know how long I want to plan sessions with people. So this should be a giant, it depends. There's definitely no one right answer to this. Larry says, the more time you devote to research reduces the time you need to spend on finding the right design. Yeah, definitely. You want to be informed by research. The more research you have, the more you're setting yourself and other people on the project up for success. But if someone's asking you in an interview, how long do you spend on these things? That's my answer. I would have to plan out a research project based on what we're looking to learn, how we plan to learn it, how many people we need to meet with. To me, there isn't one answer. And if they really pushed me and said, well, no, we want an answer. How long would you do this, blah, blah. Then I would just say, well, here's what I did on the last project I did, but that's what I did on that project. It might not be what a future project needs, but hey, on this project I did this, and on this other project I did this. But that's why they're different, because each one was different. So I don't know what's the right answer to that. And if that's an interview question, I would probably, if I asked something like that, though I wouldn't, it would probably be to see if you can how you approach the planning and estimation. You know, how do you plan or estimate something? I wouldn't expect you to say it always takes 47 hours to do X, but I might ask you in an interview, hey, we're looking to learn more about this. What type of research would you plan? You know, and how long do you think that would take? And just general, you know, hey, I don't expect an exact thing. I'm just looking to see generally how you approach planning research. That might be a fair interview question. It's certainly better than a design challenge of some sort, but that's what I thought. Oh, I am not feeling well. All right, I guess we're going to get out of here. We stayed a little bit late, maybe too late. And I will see everybody Friday for Reaction Stream. And if I don't see you, have a super weekend. I hope to see you Monday for Think Out Loud. And hope everybody feels well. Please be careful. It's still not safe out there. I'm worried that I could have COVID. And if I could have COVID and I've been isolating forever, anybody can have COVID. Sophie says, get better soon. Yeah, I thank you. I don't even know what's wrong with me. I've just been nauseous and headachy and brain foggy pretty much since I got the third shot, but I got the third shot 3 weeks ago. I want this to go away. So we got some at-home COVID tests. We're going to give them a try and see if they say anything. Thank you. For now, I'm just going to keep working. I've got deadlines on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and I cannot not work. I cannot stop and rest, unfortunately, but I will rest after next Wednesday. Thank you, Linda. Good to see you. All right, everybody, I'm going to play us out of here. Be well, stay well if you are well, and I will catch you soon. Thanks. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are